In the towering skyline of the city, at the very top of the tallest skyscraper, sat a man who seemed to have it all. His name was Arthur Vance, and he was the CEO of a global tech empire. His days were a whirlwind of high-stakes meetings, billion-dollar deals, and the constant pressure of staying ahead. He was powerful, respected, and utterly detached from the world below. One crisp autumn afternoon, a single envelope landed on his desk, standing out amidst the sterile stacks of corporate documents. It was small, cream-colored, and addressed to him in the unmistakable scrawl of a child. Arthur sighed, assuming it was just another piece of fan mail. He received them occasionally, letters from aspiring entrepreneurs or admirers of his success. He'd usually have his assistant file them away unread, but something about this one, perhaps the simple, earnest handwriting, made him pause. He picked it up, the paper feeling fragile in his hands. Tearing it open, he unfolded a single sheet of lined paper, clearly torn from a school notebook. And then he began to read. "Dear Mr. Vance," the letter started. "My name is Lily. My mommy says you're a very important man who can make anything happen. She says you built your company from nothing, just like my daddy was trying to do with his little workshop." Arthur's brow furrowed. He continued reading, his initial indifference slowly melting away. Lily wrote about her father, a carpenter who dreamed of opening his own furniture shop. She described the smell of sawdust that always clung to his clothes and the way his hands, though rough, could create the most beautiful things. The letter took a somber turn. "My daddy isn't here anymore," Lily wrote. "He went to heaven last year. Mommy cries a lot and the workshop is all quiet now. The bank wants to take it away because we can't pay for it. That workshop was my daddy's whole dream." As Arthur read these words, an image flashed in his mind. An old, dusty garage, the smell of oil and metal, and a younger version of himself, tinkering with circuit boards, fueled by nothing but a dream and instant noodles. He remembered the fear, the constant threat of failure, and the one person who had believed in him when no one else did. His own father. Lily's next words struck him like a physical blow. "My daddy had a picture of you on his wall. He said, if that man can do it, so can I. You were his hero, Mr. Vance. He told me that one day he'd be successful just like you." A lump formed in Arthur's throat. He, Arthur Vance, a man who saw people as numbers on a spreadsheet, was a hero to a man he'd never met, a man whose dream was now about to be extinguished. Lily's plea was simple. "Can you please help us save my daddy's dream? It's all we have left of him." By the time he reached the end of the letter, tears were streaming down Arthur's face, blurring the small, hopeful signature at the bottom. The corporate titan, the man of steel, was weeping. He wasn't crying for Lily or her father. He was crying for himself, for the young man he used to be, the one who had a dream and a father who supported it unconditionally. His own father had passed away just as his company began to take off, never getting to see the empire his son would build. In that moment, Arthur realized he hadn't just built a company. He'd built a fortress around his heart, and a little girl's letter had just smashed it to pieces. He slammed his hand on the intercom. "Clear my schedule for the rest of the week," he barked, his voice thick with emotion. "And find me this address. Now." His assistant, startled by his tone, scrambled to comply. Arthur Vance, the man who never took a day off, was abandoning his throne. He had to find this girl. He had to see the workshop. He had to understand the story behind these heart-wrenching words. He didn't know it yet, but this journey wasn't just about saving a stranger's dream. It was about reclaiming his own lost soul. The next day, Arthur drove his luxury car into a part of the city he hadn't seen in decades. The streets were narrower, the buildings older. He found the address, a small, weathered storefront with the faded words, "Miller and Son Woodcraft," painted above the door. Peeking through the dusty window, he saw a space frozen in time. Half-finished chairs, tools laid out as if waiting for their owner to return, and a thick layer of dust covering everything. It was a shrine to a dream deferred. A woman emerged from the house next door, her eyes weary but kind. It was Lily's mother, Sarah. When she saw the impeccably dressed man staring at the workshop, she was hesitant. But when Arthur introduced himself, her eyes widened in disbelief. He held up the letter and she broke down, explaining how her husband, Tom, had revered him. He showed her inside the workshop where, sure enough, a faded newspaper clipping of Arthur was pinned to a corkboard, right next to drawings by Lily. As Arthur walked through the space, he felt a profound connection. He saw Tom's passion in every chisel and saw. He saw his own father's belief in Tom's ambition. And then a small voice said, "Are you the man from the letter?" He turned to see a little girl with bright, hopeful eyes. It was Lily. He knelt, his expensive suit creasing on the dusty floor. "Yes, I am," he said, his voice softer than he'd ever heard it. "And I read your letter." What happened next sent ripples through the community. Arthur Vance didn't just pay off the bank loan. He invested in the workshop. He used his vast resources to transform Miller & Son Woodcraft into a thriving business, honoring Tom's legacy of quality craftsmanship. He hired Sarah to manage it and set up a trust fund for Lily's education. But the changes weren't just external. Arthur started visiting the workshop every week, not as a CEO, but as a friend. He learned to sand wood, to feel the grain, to create something with his own hands again. The laughter of a little girl replaced the cold silence of his boardroom. The smell of sawdust replaced the sterile air of his office. He found a family he never knew he needed. In saving a little girl's memory of her father, Arthur Vance had rediscovered the man he was always meant to be. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes the most significant investments we can make aren't in stocks or companies, but in people. It's a story of how a single heartfelt letter didn't just stop a CEO in his tracks. It pointed him toward a new, more meaningful path, proving that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the lives we touch. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more inspiring content. We'll see you in the next video.